It's good to be back. Hopefully, in the time I was gone, iRacing didn't shorten the lifespan of my favorite car to exactly 2.5 weeks. Alright, let's get into it. The Arca car, for as much as I don't want to admit it, is long due for an overhaul. It is the same car that has been in iRacing for upwards of a decade now, spanning back to the K&N series and even calling it the Grand National. So I did some digging about what we can expect with the handling characteristics and performance of the new Arca car. First off, let's quickly go over the update just for this part. It was back in 2009 when they released the Arca car. It is one of the most popular oval series on iRacing. I take full credit for that, just kidding. It draws close to 100,000 total drivers each week. I call cap on that. How are they measuring that? Is it just every driver who's joined a session added up and then like I can count for like 10 if I join 10 practice sessions? Either way, with the given age and driving model and adjustments to the real world, they are doing a new Arca car. And so there's going to be fully licensed all three manufacturers for the Arca cars. So that'll be really cool. You can choose what you want, just like the other NASCAR series. You probably have to buy one at a time, but there's no reason to buy more than one. So each car has been built from the ground up with new artwork and physics that incorporate advancements made into the physics modeling. In terms of the actual Arca car, though, I read the real rule book and tried to find all the specs, and it looks like all the cars are using the Ilmor engines, which you can find the specs for here. So they have 396cc or 6.49 liter engines, 700 horsepower, which is actually slightly higher than the horsepower of the current Arca car in iRacing, but don't get too excited because the max RPM in this is 7,500, whereas the max RPM in the iRacing Arca car is almost 8,000. So how that will show up in the actual car, we'll see, but it definitely seems like it'll chip out quite a bit earlier now. So there's this amount of torque on it. I don't know how that compares to the old Arca car in iRacing. You can see here on the iRacing specs, they show that it's a little bit more displacement in the new Arca car and in more horsepower in the new Arca car, but it doesn't say anything about the torque in here. About the same weight. The wheelbase is 105 inches in here, and I believe the wheelbase in the new Arca car is 110, as our Arca driver guest will get into later. In terms of how the car will race, though, it's not just about the engine. The engine drives the power, obviously, but how is the aerodynamics of the car? So I went in and I started trying to find good examples of these full in-car cams to try to see if I could kind of tell how these cars are driving. So this is Kansas in the Arca car, a very popular combo for the iRacing Arca series. This will pop up a lot. So I wanted to see how this car will drive on it.
Let's take a look. 7th spot right now, right in front of Boulevard Scott is Gio.
So as he gets into the corner here, you can definitely hear he's off throttle. So that's good. The first thing I was worried about is that these type of tracks are going to be so dead, like the old Gen 6 neutered car, that what happens is that they would be full throttle through the whole corner. Doesn't seem to be the case. With these cars, it's even driving the high lane where you would more likely be full throttle. In fact, in the new Arca car, in the old Arca car, on the high lane, you're actually full throttle. But here, he's definitely getting out of the throttle. But overall, the characteristics of this car look extremely snug to me. I don't see any of these cars, including his car, have any sort of slide out. There's a little wiggle there, but that wiggle, it doesn't seem to lean on the right rear. It seems to be snug until it kind of snaps a little bit. That's what I'm seeing with the handling characteristics. We can go to another track here. We can go to Milwaukee. This is another fairly common track on the schedule.
Alternators go bad, batteries get taxed, batteries go
and you can see here, as he gets into the corner,
it's really taxing on an alternator. A lot of times we'll
but
see
this is a really hot, slick track that you would think this is where cars would step out in iRacing, and the cars never really seem to step out in this view right here. Going into the corner, looks like, to me, a fairly snug car. So just little bits of clues there. If what I'm expecting a car to handle in terms of the iRacing Arca, it would be a lot less stable than this. And this car just looks to be a little more in the track, a little more grounded. And that might be a little less fun for us crazy guys, but I think for the average iRacer and the beginners who are going to be feeding into the series, this might just make it a better starter car. Because the way that Arca is right now, it's not really a starter car. It's kind of the second or third hardest of the NASCAR line. So just starting with that right away is a little tough. One more in-car here. This is at Iowa. Again, one of the most common that you're going to find. That's crazy sun there. But what I want to show you here was what happens when the car wiggles. So you see that you get that wiggle right here, but it's almost like the car is getting tight and it's almost becoming dead in the feeling as opposed to stepping out and being loose all the way up. All these cars here just look extremely grounded to me in the corner. And when you see wrecks, it's more of people getting together, or sometimes there is a loose moment, but it seems more like a snap than it is somebody just pushing the limit too far. So that is my opinion on how these cars would drive, but I'm not a real life driver. But you know who is a real life ARCA driver? Our guest today, Brayton Laster, who provides a great explanation on the difference between the current old iRacing ARCA car and the real-life ARCA cars and how we could see that translated into iRacing.
My name is Brayton Laster. I'm competing in the Arca Menard Series, driving the number 06 for Wayne Peterson Motorsports in 2025. I have 17 starts in the series and 4 top 10s. I feel like the tires in iRacing aren't quite as consistent. I don't know if it's more the iRacing tire model as a whole, or it's just kind of being the older style ARCA car, which I know the tire model has gone through a lot of revamp in general on the oval side. One unique thing about the ARCA cars that we run in real life is they run a general tire made by, I believe, Continental. So, they're different from Goodyear. They're very much a more forgiving tire. They're a very hard tire. You can predict the fall off a lot more consistently. Part of it is you don't really feel that fall off at the end of a run versus how you do on iRacing. So that's something I think that hopefully we see, but that might be part of the tire model in general. I know last year at Salem, we actually started the race. We practiced, qualified, and started the race for the first 75 laps on the second half set from the week before I ran at Indianapolis Raceway Park. So by the time I started the race, these tires already had 120, 130 laps on them. The revs definitely, I feel like, are a little off, especially when we go to a track like Charlotte or a super speedway. And I know that can be changed very easily in the gear in the garage as far as the gear ratio goes. The rev limiter, I think, is a little off. When you go to iRacing, the ARCA car at Charlotte, it's screaming 77, 7800 RPM, which is a beautiful sound. Modern day ARCA cars don't get anywhere near that. You're talking 72, maybe 7400. Super speedways, the drafting feels a lot easier on iRacing. I know you go and you watch the Cup guys on Sunday at Daytona, and then when they're beating, they're banging. Even the truck and the Xfinity guys are in a huge pack, and they can get 2 or 3 wide at Talladega pretty easy. The real life ARCA car, it's nowhere near that easy to get a giant pack going. You see a lot of the ARCA races at Daytona, Talladega are normally single file, maybe double file. After a restart, you really got to work together a lot harder, it feels like, in the ARCA car than what appears on the TV for the other series. The way you can set up a lot of the stuff in the rear end and the front, bump stops, or adding a packer onto your shock there, that's very different. It's definitely taken the garage by storm, the way the guys are playing with their shocks and their springs and their suspension setups as a whole. I know you can make those on the at least the Xfinity. I think the Cup cars, you can't really adjust the compression or the rebound, or the high speed compression or the high speed rebound on iRacing versus the newer NASCAR. So I hope they add that amount of adjustability. But with it being a entry level car too, less is more in that sense, making it easier for newer drivers to kind of play with that and whatnot. But I know a lot of drivers, when we practice on iRacing, we would use the Xfinity car, for example, because you have all the adjustments with the Packers and the compression, the rebound, so we can kind of play with that a little bit and get it closer to what we're running in real life. And then going back also to the modern ARCA car being more forgiving, not just the tires, but it's 110-inch wheelbase, same as the Cup chassis. That's what a lot of the ARCA cars are nowadays, is older style Cup chassis. So I've driven on both 105, 108, and 110 on short tracks. I know driving a longer wheelbase definitely might not be as quick, and a lot of guys, like going out there being crazy but being fast, they prefer that shorter wheelbase, but it's nowhere near as forgiving as like a 110-inch wheelbase car would be.
Overall, I am extremely excited about the new Arca car because it gives me a lot more content. That's all that matters, right? But really, just a new challenge in iRacing with a new set of physics and a new car is always fun to mess around with. And I hope you guys all have fun trying out the car too. I will as well. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Hope to see you all on the track.